PFL 2022 event number 1, main event, Clay Collard, Jeremy Stephens. Pretty damn good card. We're going to go through each fight on it. I'll give you guys my full card predictions and the betting breakdown after seeing the fighters face off and weigh in. Guys, make sure to smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn those post notifications on, and share the video as well. And let's jump right into fight number 1. It is between hot prospect Simeon Powell and Clinton Williams. I do believe Simeon Powell wins this fight. The hype on him is we're looking at a John Jones style fighter. They're saying he's the next John Jones. I don't like to say any fighter is the next anybody. He's the next Simeon Powell. How far can he go? We'll find out. I mean, this is only a 6-pro bout. He fights 9-5 Clinton Williams. I like Powell's kickboxing from range. Seems to be a very athletic fighter. Tricky stylistic matchup for Clinton Williams, who's a big underdog in this fight. I mean, 6'5" to 5'11". Williams more of a pressure, power punching boxer who looks for big knockout shots. Powell's a guy who can do a lot more with volume. I think he has a big advantage in this fight. I think he wins it. Leaning towards a late finish here. I could see him getting it done by a TKO in the 3rd round. Also could see it going the full 3, but I really am on the Simeon Powell side. When you saw them face off, the height difference was substantial. Now, odds minus 360 for Powell. Clinton Williams sitting at plus 309. The props that we could potentially play here, I don't love. I do think we're going over 1.5. I do think Clinton Williams can survive a little while. Plus 140 over 1.5. Powell's maybe a parlay type addition. I like him to win the bout. Do I like him by KO? I don't love it. It's plus 150. I'd rather parlay or maybe even that over 1.5. But I do think Simeon Powell stops Clinton Williams in dominant fashion. This fight shouldn't be super close, but Williams' toughness can keep him in there for some rounds. Rob Wilkinson versus Bruce Souto. If you remember Rob Wilkinson, he actually welcomed Israel Adesanya to the UFC. He was stopped in that matchup. I'm picking Rob Wilkinson to win this matchup. He's a tricky guy to deal with actually pretty decent stand-up. 6'3", 80-inch reach. He has very good physical attributes. He's a solid kickboxer from range. He's fought as a pro kickboxer, fought as a pro boxer, has good wrestling. I think he is a big problem for Bruce Souto here. If you look at the side of Souto, you have a bit of a brawling Muay Thai style striker, a guy who likes to come forward and exchange. His kicks are solid. He does work decent teeps, and his ground game solid as well. But I don't think he's as good in pretty much every area. Maybe the straight jiu-jitsu as Rob Wilkinson. I think Wilkinson's a lot better with the wrestling, with the striking. I think he chooses where this fight goes, and he dictates the pace ultimately too with that range advantage. I think he's going to beat up Bruce Souto. I don't think it'll be a super competitive fight, but I do think Souto could still have moments. I mean, the guy's 15-3. He's heavy-handed. He got himself the shot here in the PFL. I like Wilkinson to win later, kind of feeling the decision, but could also see a TKO. I'm going to go the Rob Wilkinson side, though, with a fair amount of confidence here. I think it's a really bad stylistic matchup for Souto. Wilkinson, best value, minus 188. Souto, plus 174. Let's see what we can play here. Over 1.5 here, minus 145, minus 160 at BetOnline. I don't think that's a bad tag. I don't really love the method of victory plays on this fight, but I do think Rob Wilkinson for a dominant win. Definitely another potential parlay addition here. Next fight of the night, Omari Akhmedov versus Viktor Pešta. I'm going to be picking Viktor Pešta in this fight. The former heavyweight Viktor Pešta. Akhmedov had a good career in the UFC at 185. He's now jumping up to 205. I don't think he's substantially undersized for the weight class because he's a pretty stocky guy, but definitely his strength, durability, those advantages I think are kind of out the window here against these bigger light heavyweights, especially a guy like Pešta who's 6'4". He also brings a 6-inch reach advantage. When you saw the face-off, these guys are substantially different in size. I mean, Pesta's a guy that can kickbox fairly well. He has good straight punches. I like the way he lets his hands go when he's near his opponent. I think that Omari Akhmedov will probably be caught up behind the stiff jab of Viktor Pešta. If he does get inside, I think Pešta has not a substantially difficult time dealing with the grappling. Yes, Omari Akhmedov will look to shoot. He wants to grapple against the cage. He's a heavy-handed guy, but I don't think he'll have a lot of success with the power here. I think Pesta's going to pick him apart with punches. Omari Akhmedov was stopped in his last fight, but he's notoriously durable. It's hard for me to say stoppage, but you look at the last 3 wins, all stoppages for Pešta. You look at the last loss, Jordan Young, rest in peace to Jordan Young. He unfortunately passed away. Stopped Omari Akhmedov. I'm going to ride with Viktor Pešta in a 3rd round TKO, the same fashion that we saw from the late Jordan Young. Pešta for the win. As far as the lines here, Pešta is a slight favorite, -125. Akhmedov +115. Let's see what that Pešta by KO side, +225, but I think you have a lot more value just money lining it. Don't take the risk. There's a 100% chance this fight could go 3 rounds. It's a live fight, and I'm going with the side of Viktor Pešta to get himself the win here at PFL. Next fight of the night, Marthin Hamlet versus Theodoros Askolatos. Theodoros has not fought in about 4 years now, a little more than 4 years, and I remember him from Ryzen. He's an athletic guy with power who likes to throw hard shots. I'm picking Marthin Hamlet to win the fight. I think the wrestling's a big difference maker. I feel like he's going to be super persistent with trying to clinch up, chain wrestle, put Theodoros against the cage and just control him, get him to the floor. And when he gets him there, I think Theodoros can be in a bit of trouble. Not only has he had a super long layoff, 4 years and 4 months. Look at that competition. Marvin Obelli, 2-2 record. Prior to that, lost to Carl Brexton. That's turned out to be not a bad loss to have. Brexton's had a good career and is now over in Bellator. I don't think Theodoros wins this fight. I think Hamlet takes him to the floor. I think he beats him up a bit from the top before potentially securing the head and arm. I like head and arm choke. I like win by submission from Marthin Hamlet, and I am thinking 2nd round. As far as the line here, Hamlet is a pretty strong favorite, around -249 to -250. Theodoros at +221. I like the Hamlet by submission side if you need a prop here, if you have to play props, but I'd rather parlay or money line. Hamlet wins by submission, +175. I think this is a pretty possible outcome, and I am going to predict that it happens in this matchup. PFL bringing the heat. Next fight, Alex Martinez, Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray's making his debut here at the PFL, and I am picking Stevie Ray to beat the PFL veteran, Alex Martinez, who's only 27, still a pretty young kid in the fight game. He's a rangy fighter. He's tall, he's long, he's tricky to deal with on the floor. Tall, long guy at 155 pounds on the mat. He's not going to be easy to just sit on top of and control. I mean, Stevie Ray does have a decent grappling game, but I think striking is where he's going to find more success. There is a range edge for Alex Martinez, but I can see guys with superior boxing, definitely like somebody, Stevie Ray, going to get inside on him, potentially landing combination punches. I could see Stevie from the southpaw stance landing straights down the line and hurting Alex Martinez as he presses inside. I think he'll rip to the body as well. I don't think Alex Martinez is going to give him a substantial threat with the offensive wrestling. I like Stevie Ray. I'm kind of thinking Stevie Ray by knockout at some time throughout this fight. Definitely could see it going the full 3, but something's just irking me towards some of these PFL fights I think are going to be stoppages, and I'm going to pick Stevie Ray by KO. Ray is an underdog in this spot, +126. Alex Martinez, -135. I like the Stevie Ray underdog spot here. I don't really love playing the prop, though, because I definitely think it's possible. Ray by decision, +175. Ray by KO, +925. I mean, what's the likelihood of it? When's the last time Stevie Ray got a KO? It's been a while. I do think he has power in his hands, but, I might have to pull back on that one. Yeah, he hasn't gotten a KO in years, ground and pound. You know what? I'm gonna step back on what I said. It might be a TKO ground and pound, but it's not worth banking on. We're gonna go Stevie Ray by decision. That was the original pick. The hype inside of me got me decided to jump on the knockout side. No, we're sticking with the correct one, which is Stevie Ray, unanimous decision. I do think he outstrikes Alex Martinez. I think on the floor it's competitive, but I still give it the way of Stevie Ray. Win. Next fight is our featured prelim. Emiliano Sordi versus Cory Hendricks. I'm going to be picking the Emiliano Sordi side here. Even though he had a rough season last year, Sordi's a high-level guy. He's a difficult fight. Cory Hendricks had a good performance beating Marthin Hamlet, but ultimately lost to Chris Camozzi. He's a long striker, a guy that's been around for a very long time. I remember him on the Ultimate Fighter years back. Has a bit of a square stance, Thai-esh style, likes to throw a lot of kicks. I'd say kicking is definitely his strong point as opposed to punching. Does have a decent jiu-jitsu game and a solid gas tank, a guy that can take a bit of a beating. Emiliano Sordi is a rangy kickboxer with power in his hands. He's the inch shorter fighter, but he's got the reach advantage here, and I think that'll work for Sordi. He's a guy that likes to throw long overhands, straights from range. He's got a lot of feints in his striking game. I don't see Hendricks with a wrestling threat to take Sordi down and beat him up. I think Sordi's defense will be there. I think Sordi actually finds the chin. I'm thinking Emiliano Sordi by second round knockout over Cory Hendricks. Now, as far as the line here, Sordi is a strong favorite. Minus 285, best value. Hendricks plus 304. I do like Sordi to win by KO. Sordi, the KO prop for him here is plus 150, but I think he's a great parlay addition and that minus 285 range, minus 350 on BetOnline. I am a fan, and I'm picking Emiliano Sordi to win in his return here in PFL. Great fight. Main card, if you guys haven't yet, make sure to smash the like button. It is Natan Schulte versus Oliver Aubin-Mercier. Very good matchup here between these lightweights. I'm excited to see Schulte back, but I don't think he beats Oliver. I think Oliver is actually a really bad stylistic matchup. When they faced off, it seemed like Mercier was the bigger of the two, though Schulte is listed as the taller man. I like Mercier's game. Well-rounded guy. He will walk you down with pressure. Southpaw stance. Pretty quick hands. Has definitely improved, I would say. Has pretty good combination strikes. A powerful right hook. A good straight left down the line. His grappling skills have always been solid. Natan Schulte, opposite him, is a guy with a good Thai style of striking. Very high guard. Pressure heavy. He's going to stalk you. He's going to press you. So it's interesting to see two guys pressuring one another. I think Mercier is the faster striker, and I think he's the harder puncher of the two. I think that Schulte will look to get it to the floor. I think Mercier stops the attacks. I think Oliver Aubin-Mercier gets himself a win by a unanimous decision in this fight over the former champ, Natan Schulte. Schulte is a plus 145 dog. Mercier is minus 155. We don't have a full slew of props here. Let me quickly bring up best fight odds, and maybe they'll have it. Let's see here. Natan Schulte, Mercier, they do have it. That's good. Mercier to win by decision. I think this is the most likely method of victory here. Is going to be sitting at plus 165. And that over 1.5 minus 360, over 2.5 minus 205. I do think we're going long here, the full 3. And I'm going to be picking Mercier for the win by a unanimous decision. Next fight on the main. Antonio Carlos Jr. versus Delan Monte. I'm going to be picking Carlos Jr. to destroy Delan Monte here. It's not going to be a close fight. From what I saw of Monte, he's a bit of a brawler, a guy that likes to press inside with strikes and unload combination shots. The chin comes up a bit high, and he can be a bit reckless, and I saw him caught even in his last fight against a lesser guy. I think Carlos Jr. could actually hurt him on the feet. Carlos Jr. is a long guy, pretty solid stand-up game, good straight shots, has really improved his striking tenfold to match that elite-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. On the mat, Carlos Jr. is a danger to anybody in PFL, and I think he's going to submit Delan Monte in the first round. I don't think it's a very competitive fight. Monte does have a bit of jiu-jitsu in his own right and does have a judo background, but there's levels to the game, and Carlos Jr. is vastly superior. I could see him hurting him on the feet as well. I'm going Antonio Carlos Jr. Dominance, win, submission. It should be a demolition. As far as the line for this fight, Antonio Carlos Jr. is a minus 670 favorite at best value. Delan Monte plus 650. The line is incredibly wide between these two, and it's for good reason. Carlos Jr. wins by sub is minus 225. There's really no bet to be played here. Carlos Jr. by KO plus 700. I mean, Monte could get wild and get caught, but I think Carlos Jr. is going to look for the submission. He's going to look to get it to the floor, and he will succeed there. Antonio Carlos Jr. via submission. Co-main event of the evening, Raush, Manfio, and Madge. Great fight at 155 here. Manfio is the winner of last year's PFL championship. So coming in hot to this fight, and they throw him a very difficult stylistic matchup. A tall, rangy kickboxer, a guy that fights out of the southpaw stance, who has good takedown defense, known for his ground game as well. Multi-shot combinations, very good kicks. Don Madge is impressive on the feet. I'm picking Don Madge to win the fight. I think he's going to beat the former champion Raush Manfio, who's more of a Thai-style striker. Doesn't have a great output of strikes. I think that's another factor. I think Madge is going to outstrike him and land more and throw more. The volume will be higher. Manfio is decent teep, solid hooks in close range, that patient pressure style of attack. And he does rip some decent low kicks, but I think you're going to see Madge working an excellent jab. I think straights will come down the line, especially in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Madge knows how to be a southpaw. I think he's going to force Manfio to grapple. I think Madge will surprise him with takedown defense, even in grappling skills of his own. I think Don Madge wins this fight by a unanimous decision and takes out the former champion. This is huge. This is huge. Big opportunity. He is the favorite. The bookies agree. Minus 135, best value for Madge. Manfio plus 153. I like the Don Madge side. I do think he's getting a decision. Over 2.5, minus 210. Madge wins via decision is sitting at plus 175. I do think he gets it done on a decision, but more of a money line style play. I'm picking him to get the win. He's going to beat Raush Manfio, and I do think that he's a contender in this PFL championship. The main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure to smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's Clay Collard, Jeremy Lil Heathen Stevens. Heathen's debut here in PFL. Came over from the UFC now. He's on a tough losing streak. He hasn't gotten a win in some time. I think Clay Collard is going to win the fight, guys. I'm going to be picking Clay more active at 155 normally. I mean, Stevens has never been great at 55. Then he finished out his UFC career rocky at 155. Clay Collard is a guy who has pro boxing experience and has done fairly well as a pro boxer. Of course, he's gotten his fair share of losses there. He's an MMA fighter that's got some good boxing, and his MMA kickboxing overall, pretty damn solid. Pressure style of striker, good straight punches, definitely has good stance switches. He can mix it up confidently. His footwork is excellent. Very good body kicks. Well-rounded guy. Don't sleep with him on the floor. And honestly, very durable. Clay Collard can take some damage. I feel like Jeremy Stevens is going to look to use his explosiveness. He's an explosive puncher with serious knockout power, known for his kickboxing game throughout his career. He'll stand in front of his opponents and be willing to brawl. He'll chop at the legs. He'll throw hooks. He'll do more of like a leaping left hook to get inside at times, which could potentially leave some openings for Clay Collard, the former pro, or actually active pro boxer. He still fights as a pro in recent fight in pro boxing, lost though. I think that Clay Collard can land some damaging shots here. I'm expecting him to win. I like Clay Collard in a competitive decision over Jeremy Stevens in what should be an action-packed and my call for fight of the night. Looking at the lines here, Clay Collard plus money, plus 120 dog. Jeremy Stevens, the minus 115 favorite. Over 1.5, I would play, but they don't have it. Over 2.5, minus 130. I think you're getting in risky territory prop bet in this fight. I think better off, if you're on the Collard side, play that plus money. If you like Stevens' money line, throw down on him. But I'm going the Clay Collard side for the W. Gets it done in the main event. Fantastic PFL card to kick it off. I wish I could have dropped the picks a little bit sooner, but we're still getting them out there. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I do want to send you off with some parlays, though, before we close this out. What can we come up with live here? Guys that I'm feeling that extremely strong confidence to come through, and I think the value is worth the touch. I feel like if I have to throw, I would say Hamlet. I think Wilkinson plus 108. I think that's great value if you want to get a little bit more heat going for yourself. A Viktor Pešta plus 260. That could happen, but you can take Pešta out. I think Aubin-Mercier plus 243. These are some close money value odds, and that's why I love PFL for the betting side, because the value is there. There's a lot of bettable fights on this card in close money. It's not like the Bellator prelims where you're seeing every fight is a minus 1,000, minus 800, minus 700, what have you. Do we want to add in Clay Collard at the top as a close money, plus 569? We can go absolutely nuts with the parlays, but if I was going to play it safer, somebody that I'm feeling the confidence in would be a stylistic matchup like a Marthin Hamlet, bringing in a Rob Wilkinson, plus 108. If I want to add more, I do like Sordi at plus 165, but I could do without him and instead add Oliver Aubin-Mercier, just a proven top guy that performs time and time again. That's plus 240. Don Madge, plus 457, but you still got to respect Manfio coming in as the former champion. It's a scary parlay. I like this 3-fighter parlay. Overall, I think we're in store for a great card. Definitely some solid betting spots. I hope you guys enjoyed the full card predictions. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and turn on those post notifications as well. Let me know if you guys are interested also in PFL live streams. I don't know if I'm going to do one for this card, but definitely for futures, I could start those fight companions up for PFL if we got enough people wanting to see it. Much love, my people. I will see you all in the next one. Have a great one. Peace, guys.